Hey, everybody. Kevin Harned with you. Hope you're having a good evening. Sorry, we had a couple of technical issues. That rarely happens like that, right?
8:27, we come in the studio here, and all of our buttons are lit up in weird ways. That's fun.
It's like trying to get the shuttle to be upright again.
It's kind of like in the movie Airplane when the guy unplugs the appliance and goes, "Oops, did I do that?"
Yeah, my bad.
Whoops.
Anyway, we're back on. We're glad everybody can see us. We've got a little bit to talk about. It's still February. It's just February, in fact. So that means it's solidly still winter, right? But today we've been tracking thunderstorms. We've seen the lightning from our SkyTrack cameras. We know some of you have had heavy pockets of rain. And we have to talk about the severe weather chance that's in the forecast for at least some folks later tonight. And we're going to do our best to sort of walk you through who should be most concerned and what those concerns should be about, meaning what types of severe weather we could deal with into the overnight hours tonight. And then I think, frankly, a little more exciting might be next week. And I know that's still a week away, but we're going to tackle that too. So we'll let a few folks get in here. I see some folks jumping in. Angela saying hello. We say hello back to everybody's that's in here. Weather Geek. Hey, we love a good weather geek. That's what I know. In from Florida. So good time to leave Kentucky. You're right about that.
And watching on YouTube. So thank you so much for watching on YouTube. We're trying to grow our audience there.
Yeah, YouTube's a big avenue now, far more than it was even just a year ago.
Isn't that amazing how things change, especially with live broadcasts like this?
There's Nicholasville chiming in. Ellen saying hello to both of us.
Ellen.
And Punxsutawney Phil just joined.
Isn't he on a plane to Hawaii by now? Yeah. He's done his thing, and he can go off into the sunset. And he told us the obvious, 6 more weeks of winter, which if you look at our forecast, he's actually right this year.
Yeah, he may, right?
39%
hate it when the rodent's right.
But I think he got it this year.
Steve's saying there's good. Loud thunder in Brandenburg today. Well, we had some of that here at the studio too. Several big bolts of lightning. We captured them from our SkyTrack camera, but you could
it's like flicker, flicker, flicker. Like every other minute, you could see one of those. It's kind of crazy.
All right, let's jump in. We want to start by mentioning. Today is National Weather Person's Day. So for all of those that have reached out, and we've had a number of you that have reached out to us, we say thank you. National Weather Person's Day comes around every February the 5th. And we just appreciate you guys recognizing that. And we want to recognize all those other meteorologists that we work with, not only on a daily basis, like on our team, but certainly the ones that we correspond with from the National Weather Service, the Storm Prediction Center, and all the other agencies that we deal with. Believe it or not, there are a lot of meteorologists that live in Louisville, and partly due to UPS.
Yeah, UPS has a big office right there off of Grade Lane where they house their world meteorological operations. So hats off to all the other meteorologists in town. Thanks for all that you do. All the meteorologists busy tonight, both UPS here at WAVE and, of course, the National Weather Service because of these storms overnight. Yeah,
we'll be watching these. Again, our timing may have to get adjusted a little bit. We'll wait on a little more higher resolution data that's coming in as we speak before we update the forecast for 11 o'clock. If anything, it's going to be just pushing the time back. Okay, so right now we've still got it pegged from 10 until 6, so we extended it an hour from yesterday. It's probably going to be something more like midnight until 8. is probably what we're going to wind up going with. Briefly, strong storms are going to be possible for some, but not for everybody. Obviously, we have the heavy rain. We've already had some of that today. Could get more if you get under a thunderstorm or two during the overnight hours tonight. The impacts would be some gusty winds, but also because we're dealing with this warm front, we've got some pretty robust shear in the atmosphere. That means we'll be dealing with some isolated tornado potential too.
Yeah, and that isolated tornado potential is no good during an overnight period into early tomorrow morning. So make sure your Wave Weather app and NOAA Weather Radio are both ready to go. Fresh batteries and a NOAA Weather Radio in February, not a bad idea. Get you ready for the severe weather season.
Yeah, we've already had a half inch of rain across much of the MSD gauges. The higher total was Worthington Hills, 3/4 of an inch of rain there. So soaking rain again in Louisville, and we've got more to add to that. Valley Station coming in with just over a 1/3 of an inch. Here's the current radar view. You can see there's still pockets of rain, some heavier than others if you look closely. And then we're going to push this out of here. Notice the pink showing up to the north. Some freezing rain in places. Notice the lightning count in the banner. Yes, we're still dealing with some lightning with these downpours. Now, the thing for severe weather is, if you look, one of the most important things we're going to be looking at is that temperature. And here in Louisville, we're still in the 30s, have been for a good chunk of the day.
And folks up near Seymour and North Vernon have been holding very close to freezing pretty much all afternoon up there. So here's the deal. We got to warm it up to get thunderstorms, right? It's hard to get severe weather when temperatures are in the 30s and 40s like this. So this warm front to our south will move in. But the problem that Kevin and I were discussing earlier is that cold air is dense, right? So this warm air trying to get and displace into this cold air that we have over us is going to be tough. So we'll see how far north that warm front makes it overnight tonight. That's why we don't think Louisville is at a big risk of severe weather at all. Louisville, southern Indiana, we're pretty much not talking about you for the most part. This is areas along and south of the Western Kentucky and Bluegrass Parkways from Litchfield to Bardstown and south of there. We'll see how that works out overnight tonight. But the rainfall totals already from these non-severe storms, pretty decent.
Oh, you know, we've mentioned the ones in Louisville, and some of those anywhere between, most of them are around a half an inch. But some areas to our south picking up again, depending on if you get under a heavy downpour. That's just the luck of the draw there. But like Litchfield, almost 3/4 of an inch. Lebanon, more than that, narrowing in on an inch of rain. LaGrange, 3/4 of an inch, while some places up around Seymour just around 1/10 of an inch, or Bedford even less. So depends where you are, if you got under a thunderstorm or not. Here's the setup that we're watching for tonight. We do have the warm front to our south. The low pressure is moving to the northeast. It's going to drag the warm front closer to us. As the warm front moves closer, that's where we start to destabilize a little. We're bringing in not only more shear in the atmosphere as the low-level jet kicks in overnight tonight, but we also have that boundary nearby and the warmer temperatures to feed off of. So that's the warm side of it. The cold side is producing freezing rain and winter weather, which is why we have the winter weather advisory across parts of the Great Lakes up into the Northeast. This is going to slow people down there for a whole different reason.
And that comes all the way down to Cincinnati, by the way. It was pretty close by today, but thankfully we were just too warm for there to be any problems with that.
And on the warm side, we have no watches, we have no warnings at this point, but we do have outlined from the Storm Prediction Center now a slight risk of severe weather. So in the latest update this evening, which came out just after 8 o'clock, we see that we've been upgraded to a slight risk. So these go marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, high. It's rare we get into the high category. We usually see a few moderates to enhanced throughout the year. In the middle of winter, to have a slight risk, that's not all that usual.
Yeah, that's more common to our south. Like the Gulf Coast region typically sees severe weather episodes like this in February. So this is pretty far north. It comes all the way up to the parkways here. So that yellow now kind of gives us a good indication of where the severe weather risk is. So if you're in the yellow, that's really where you need to pay attention overnight tonight.
Well, and we talked about this. If you were watching us on Wave News at 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7. We were clearly pointing out that they had moved the marginal risk up to the Ohio River, but the real zone to watch would be along and south of the parkways, because that's when we were looking at the data this afternoon, it all sort of pegged in on where you had the warmer temperatures, where that was going to occur. And we're going to have more shear down that way as well, more instability for sure. And you have to have instability, at least some instability, to have severe weather. So let's go through some of the parameters.
Yeah, and one thing before we get going here, Sarah brings up a good point. She says, I can't tell where the yellow line stops in Hardin County. There's not this
Main Street.
Right. There's not this imaginary like fine line where severe weather is going to stop. Imagine it as being more of kind of a gradient, something that gradually ends there. So if you're in northern Hardin County, less of a chance. Southern Hardin, more of a chance there. Just wanted to kind of point that out before people kind of lose their minds about a line going through a county like that.
I think that's probably our fault, because we're always like, just pick out where you are on the map.
Right. And
like especially snow totals, right?
But see, snow maps, we can control that fade between the two totals, whereas on here, they've got those super thin straight lines between them here.
All right, let's talk about what to expect. Again, let's start by saying very few people will see severe weather overnight tonight. There could be a few rogue thunderstorms that get strong enough to produce severe weather. If that happens, and in the few places that see it, let's now talk about what types of severe weather we could see and what's most likely. So you can see I've put the hail potential on. Again, this is just 5%. It's the lowest of the scale. So hail is not all that likely. If it were to happen, it would be fairly small.
Yeah, the problem with tonight is we've got low freezing levels, but not a lot of instability. So there's not a lot of ingredients for very large hail. And wind is the same category at 5% here. Basically, these 58, 65 mile per hour gusts possible, but they're not going to be super widespread or anything like that. It's going to take just the strongest storm around to really put down the wind gusts like that. So, of course, that's hail, that's wind. And that brings us to our third parameter. And this is the one that can get folks a little bit out of shape, and the reason why we have that new slight risk that's going to be for areas, of course, south of the Western Kentucky and Bluegrass Parkways.
Right. And again, when we talk about the tornado threat that we have, it again is
I can pull it up for you, Kev.
Okay, if you've got it there.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the comments, and I wanted to put up Michael's comment. He says, just because we're in the marginal risk doesn't mean we can let our guard down. And that is so true. Yeah. Sometimes, if we're in an enhanced risk area, it's the slight risk or the outer edges that may wind up with even stronger storms. Or sometimes those bust and the slight risk days are the ones that are like, man, should have been paying attention a little more to that. So you're right. The marginal risk area doesn't mean we can let our guard down, but because we've looked at the data and it does look like we're going to stay somewhat cooler here in Louisville, it appears as though the threat is going to be higher to our south. And that's, we've been saying it all day. Just now that the Storm Prediction Center sort of their outlook lines up with what we were seeing as well. So
yeah, Chris actually was hitting on that too. Chris Bowles here is like pretty rare to get a late night update from the SPC like this for the overnight. What changed in the data? Not a lot has changed in the data. They were discussing this early this afternoon. Frankly, that's when they should have pulled the trigger on it. So they're just now catching up to it, to what we've known pretty much all day long here. Data's all about the same, but I know folks were going to have questions about that, wanted to address that. So this map you see here, this is the tornado potential map. That 5% zone is kind of exactly what our idea has been for most of the day here. That's the section that's going to have the highest threat, but still not a high threat of seeing an isolated spin-up tornado.
And the shear is pretty incredible. So we have high shear. We just don't have a lot of instability, but we do have, again, warm air coming in, because the warm front's lifting in, and obviously those strong southerly winds are going to be warming us up. So you factor in surface winds from the south. You bring in the low-level jet that increases anywhere between 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. You're going to create some shear. And there's no doubt that as we sort of rip these storms apart or split them, that we would have some rotating supercells that could develop. They'd be fairly small. They're going to be isolated. not everybody's going to get them. So that's the idea for the overnight hours tonight. You can see the current radar view showing those showers and thunderstorms just in general moving across the area. But we're far too stable now to see severe weather, especially, well, anywhere in our viewing area.
It's hard to get severe weather when it's 38 degrees. Think about that for a minute. We're going to go from 38 into the 50s here with Louisville overnight tonight, and in more of the trouble zone down in southern Kentucky. Those folks go into the low 60s early tomorrow morning. And that's why that is the trouble zone, where the instability may be enough to squeeze out some rotating thunderstorms, one or two of which could put down an isolated tornado.
We oftentimes talk about severe weather, when it is in the cold season, how that works.
Mm-hmm.
But typically it's opposite. It's when we warm it up and then slam cold air in here. Well, this is the opposite. We're already cold right now, and we're trying to push warm air in. So we set up that inversion that we have ongoing, and that will be taking place through the overnight hours, which is going to cause a steep lapse rate up through the overnight.
And the presence of the warm front also gives you an enhanced wind shear environment. So that's why there is some concern for those spin-up tornadoes. It takes our surface winds out of the east or southeast. And when you have that in opposition to the winds aloft out of the west or southwest, you can get this corkscrew motion in the atmosphere. We always say, never trust a warm front. Folks may laugh at me for that, but it's true, because those can be the setups that can produce tornadoes somewhat unexpectedly, because you've got so much shear, and it doesn't take a whole lot of instability to pop those storms off.
Yeah, especially rough during the overnight, right? But that's the time where we're cranking up the winds that are needed, because the low-level jet always increases at night. Now, this is the Futurecast that you're looking at. This is 11 o'clock, and you can see some of those isolated storms starting to develop. Now, as I sort of walk us through this, you're going to notice those storms sort of splitting. Notice more and more developing. So the storms start to split. Those would have the potential, at least, to rotate. That's the motion that is needed for the tornadic ability to take place, right? So that is the shear in the atmosphere, helping those storms spin, if you will. And that continues through 2, 3 o'clock. Again,
look at the
mainly south. And temperatures are already warming into the 60s. Here in Louisville, we're still in the 40s. Seymour, still in the 30s by that point. So the hope of severe weather that far north is very unlikely. Even this far north in Louisville, the better chance is going to be where we have temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Notice climbing. And we'll continue to see that. Now, by the time we warm up here in Louisville, we already have the cold front sweeping in and coming in on the backside of that to squash it all back to the south. So it's really a 1-2 punch with the southern counties. It's the warm front lifting in, providing the instability and the frontal boundary with the shear. And then by the time it warms up and that takes place, the cold front's already slamming it in and creating another round of storms because of the lift that it's causing in the southern part of the viewing area, which is the same area. So that, again, is why along and south of the parkways will stand the better chance for a longer duration than anybody else in the viewing area. I hope that somewhat makes sense, because it's kind of a complicated setup, really.
And that's why the timing has been a little tough. And that's why we pushed it back an hour to 6 a.m. being the end time. And we may have to do that some more. It's because when does that cold front move through? That's a moving target. At this range out, things can move a couple hours. So we want you to be prepared for that sort of adjustment that might be needed. It also could come through a little faster in the morning, which would be good. Get this stuff out of here, right? But basically, that area that Kevin was talking about in central and southern Kentucky that has the longest time under that warm, moist air to get stronger storms, that's called the warm sector. That's that area between the warm front and the cold front, where you basically have this bubble of warm, unstable air where that can happen. If you're not in the warm sector, you're not playing this game at all. So that's why Louisville and southern Indiana are kind of out of it. It's too cold, too far north.
Yeah, most people are like, I don't play this game anyway. I will sit on the side and watch.
Yeah, please. We'd rather do snow.
Yeah, right. So again, if we're just looking at this at face value, you can see what we're talking about. Look at the 60s down to the south. You'll notice that is the warm sector. That is where we have some of these thunderstorms that have gone by. And then we're going to squeeze the cold front in, pops off storms along that, anywhere from Shelbyville down to Litchfield, moving to the south and east. Some of those could be strong. That, again, look at the time of that, by the way, because timing's important. That's anywhere between that 4 a.m. time frame, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., moving out of the area. By 7, 8 a.m., it's out of here. So by 9, it's completely out. And 10, we're just down to a mostly cloudy sky. So that, again, is what we're looking at. Southern counties, where the Storm Prediction Center has pegged it, along and south of the parkways. We said it yesterday. We've said it all day today. Haven't wavered on that in terms of where the severe threat is. So in the next 12 hours, you can see we're going to ramp up thunderstorm chances. We're going to push this back from midnight until 8 a.m., which you can see it goes until 6. So we're going to extend it a little bit further for that severe threat. And that's what we'll be looking at for the overnight hours tonight.
I just got a report in from JW here on YouTube. They had thunder in Carmel, Indiana. That's a northern suburb of Indianapolis, where they're, I believe, under that winter weather advisory. So a little bit of like thunder, freezing rain, or thunder sleet up there tonight.
That's exciting.
So that just shows you that even if you hear thunder, that doesn't mean you're in the severe zone tonight, all right? Because we're likely going to hear thunder in Louisville. We're likely going to hear it in southern Indiana. But the severe zone is mainly south of those counties, central southern Kentucky.
You can see by tomorrow during the morning hours, it squeezes all of that out of here. We're cloudy, dry for much of the day tomorrow, but we do see a batch of showers and possibly a rumble of thunder, but mainly just some heavier downpours that will move through during the evening hours tomorrow evening, and then that's out of here. So a couple of rounds, one early, another one later in the day. Any severe weather tomorrow is early in the day to the south. Outside of that, severe weather does not look likely for tomorrow. Thursday's rain chances, you can see the blip early in the morning and then another one during that early evening time frame. So those would be our Thursday rain chances. Just a reminder that as you prepare for bed, make sure you have a way, especially if you're along and south of the parkways. This is a good exercise for all of us, though. If you are in the viewing area, the next step would be a watch would be issued. If everything went perfectly, a watch would be issued, and then if there's a warning would be issued. So the way the warning process works is, for us, we would flag the day as an alert day as far in advance as we feel like we can. Some are easier than others. We flagged this day last week saying, hey, mid next week, we're going to have to watch. We'll say Wednesday for now, but it could be Tuesday, it could be Thursday. Well, as it turns out, we never did move it off of Wednesday, though it went from Wednesday night into Thursday. So it's kind of overnight. But this has been in place for almost a week now, just to get your attention. So that's the first stage. Next stage would be the Storm Prediction Center saying, all right, we're watching this area. And they did. They finally put a marginal risk across part of the area. It was south of the parkways. Today, it got extended this morning, farther to the north, along and south of the river. And then this evening, it got upgraded to a slight risk. So that's the warning process as it works perfectly. Doesn't always work perfectly, by the way. Nonetheless, when we go through the process, you have your responsibilities too. Have a way to get the messaging. Obviously, us sitting on here is one way. You're getting educated about what's happening, and we're being able to talk about it and have this conversation. That's great. But when the warnings happen, that's when it's important. So you got to have a way to get the warnings. Make sure you have the Wave Weather app. We push information out to that all the time. We spend a lot of time updating the Wave Weather app, and we appreciate your comments on that. It helps make our app better. So thank you. The NOAA Weather Radio is essentially a smoke detector for storms, right? Like everybody should have one because that's the first line of defense when severe weather happens. The National Weather Service issues the warnings. We don't do that. The Weather Service does. So you get the warning right there. And now they're programmable to where you can just put your county in there. Makes it pretty nice. And then, of course, make sure your devices are charged up. Make sure you know, in case you were to lose power. I don't suspect this is not a massive severe weather outbreak at all, but there could be a rogue storm or two that produces some problems. Sorry, I know I rambled on there.
No, you're good. Fine. I actually had to fix a technical issue that you have on your computer too.
Oh, yeah.
Which is all sorts of fun. We know what that is. But one thing I do want to say is know where you live. And I know that sounds really like basic and archaic, but Know where you live, know the county you live in, know the town that you live in. We can't do weather by zip code here, all right? So your phone can do that, and it knows where you live, by coordinates. But if we're on TV with any sort of severe weather coverage early tomorrow morning, even if a weather alert or a severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning has not been issued for your location, knowing where you live relative to where the current warnings are will be very helpful, because you'll know, like, hey, I live in X county and Y county to my west is under a warning. I might be next. And when we call you out saying, hey, you might have a warning if you're in X county coming up here in a few minutes, you'll know, okay, that's me. So know what county you're in. I know that's super basic, but some folks may have just moved here. Some folks who are like in the military move around a lot, and they may be somewhat unfamiliar with the area. That's cool. But we need to make sure we all know where we're at in our counties, what town we're in, what part of town we're in, so that when you see that radar come up on your screen, if you're trying to watch our streaming coverage on Wave Weather Now, or of course on Wave Television, you'll know exactly where you're at in relation to everything going on around you. That's my know where you live sermon. I say that once every few months because some folks are new to this, and it's super important because it's important to serve your family with the safe information that we give you, and knowing where you live helps you consume that.
It's important to know where you live.
It's important to know where you live. We're going to say it 10 times. We have to.
Hey, Jacob says, why has no watch been issued in the southern counties yet? Well, that's a good question.
We're not there yet.
And we're just not there yet. So weather like this is conditional, right? It has to, we always sort of use the analogy of making a cake. If you don't have all the ingredients, it doesn't happen, right? Or at least it doesn't happen right. So for severe weather to happen, we still need a few things to fall into place. Will it? Well, it's possible. Will it not? Well, that's possible too. So we could escape this whole thing without any severe weather in the viewing area. That is certainly possible, by the way. So this is not a guarantee for severe weather. It's what we would call, it's conditional, meaning few things have to happen and fall into place at the right time for that to happen. So we're not there yet for the watch to be issued. At this point, if we had to push the button now and say severe weather or no, it would be no. That's just where we're at right now in terms of what's happening. Give it a couple of hours as we start to increase the winds, especially the low-level jet. Let's see how fast the low pressure drags that warm front up in here. And let's see how much we start to destabilize and how fast that occurs. And that's what we'll be watching over the next couple of hours. This is an hour by hour, minute by minute process that we have to watch unfold across the area. And mile by mile too, because we know it's going to happen south of us first. And how far will that come north? Will the warm air advection make it this far north to where we can overcome temperatures in the 40s and rise into the upper 50s and low 60s? Doubtful of that right now, but it's possible. But we'll have to watch how it unfolds over the next few hours.
Because all of this right now is based on a forecast. And that forecast heavily relies on weather modeling. And it sometimes does not get things right, especially in an abnormal setup like this, when you've got instability during an overnight period in the middle of winter. Those are like 1, 2, 3 strikes of weird things all together. It may be overdoing it, may be underdoing it. We're not quite sure yet on that, but we know the potential is there. That's why you see the alert day here on the bottom of the screen that you're watching this live stream on. And that's why we want you to be prepared. It's kind of a just in case thing. There's some data saying, hey, we need to pay attention, but it's no guarantee, as Kevin said.
Yeah, so that's sort of the severe weather setup. For folks that are just joining us, I want to scroll back up and show you again, the latest information that we have is what we've been talking about throughout the day today, and that is that the greatest potential for severe weather would be to our south, along and south of the parkways. The Storm Prediction Center pegged us in the marginal risk along and south of the river, but then this evening they added the slight risk along and south of the parkways, and it is that zone that looks most realistic for severe weather for the evening and overnight tonight. So if anybody has any questions on the severe weather for tonight, outside of what's it going to do in my backyard or in my location, because we've sort of gone through that. And if you have other questions or comments, we can take those now. And then we're going to take a quick break and reset the computer and come back and talk about another storm chance for Saturday and the possibility of some snow early next week. So it's a very active weather pattern through the month of February.
Because of course it is, right? January was active.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. And who the heck knows what March is going to do at this point, because we're not looking that far into the future because we got so much to do here. The questions about the individual counties and cities, look at this map. Campbellsville was asked about. It's on this map here. Joanne says it's up 2 degrees in E-Town since the broadcast started. So yeah, that's that push of warm air starting to very slowly push in from the south here. So we'll watch that temperature overnight tonight. We'll watch the position of the warm front that we've been talking about here. All of this is very important to whether or not we're going to get severe weather. Kevin's pulling up the temperatures now, so you'll be able to see E-Town at the airport there. It's currently 38. Your home thermometer may, of course, say 40 degrees. It'll likely say 40 in the next little bit here as we get more updates in from the temperature sensors. Got a lot more comments, too. Shonda saying, of course, my microphone is blocking.
When is the next round of rain for the metro area? And you can see we've got more rain developing just back out to the west of us. So it will not be much longer. It is a little more scattered. That's the current view. This is the loop. So it takes us back 2 hours, 3 hours.
And no lightning in this current view right here. It's amazing to get these downpours and this lightning with temperatures as low as they are. This is such a wonky setup here. Just to get a cold rain that acts more like a springtime thunderstorm. It owes to the amount of instability in the atmosphere aloft. Now, to get a little nerdy for you here, we need surface instability for severe weather. Basically, air parcels that are rising from ground level up into the sky in order for that severe weather to take place. What is happening now is mid-level instability. Thousands of feet above our heads, it's unstable, but it's stable where we're at here. You can see those heavy downpours near Buffalo, Kentucky, Magnolia, Hodgenville there, east of 65.
And those do have a little lightning.
There we go. Yeah, lightning count 7 on that right now. And as you zoom out, that lightning count's kind of amazing, by the way. If you haven't paid attention to it, it's at the top of your screen there. And it's all the lightning strikes within the last 5 minutes in that current radar view. So you can see just south of Columbia there.
Yeah, that's 31. So
pretty good.
That gives you an idea that the farther south we go, again, lightning, sort of a precursor to the instability that we have going on. We have obviously more storms to the south producing the lightning, a little more instability, a little more warmth going on. We'll zoom right into some of those streets and you can see a number of places seeing those lightning strikes down across the very southern part of the viewing area.
So, yeah, that's what we've got going on in southern Kentucky at this point. And you'll notice southern Indiana is a lot drier. And then look at all the lightning around Indianapolis. We were talking about Carmel earlier. That's nutty.
They actually have more lightning than to the south. Now, that's odd.
Nearly
but
40
what's
strikes.
Not odd about it is it's ice.
Yes.
And what happens in the cloud is the upward motion and downward motion of ice or hail in the storm separates charge, positive and negative. So we create friction, in other words. And when that happens, you can get a little more lightning. So that's interesting, but that's ice-induced as opposed to what's happening for us. Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
It's like a sleet storm or a freezing rain storm, thunderstorm up there, which is not something we typically say any time of year, let alone this one. That's a little nutty. So yeah, we do have some rain moving toward us from the west. It's still developing. This is not one of those situations where you look to the west and that's exactly where what you're going to get. No, a lot of this will start to manifest and develop kind of right over us here.
Chris is asking a nerdy weather question, which we like, and that is the HRR, which is a high resolution model, have support for helicity swaths, which would mean the potential for rotation or tornadoes that would move through? And the answer is yes for southern Kentucky.
Right, like Adair County.
Run. Yeah, so along the Tennessee border and up to Adair County would have been where those were.
Those are concerning because they show us the model's thinking when it comes to rotating thunderstorms that may have the potential to put down a tornado. So whenever you see those, that's kind of the quick and dirty, like, hey, where's this tornado threat going to be? That's typically where you will look first, and then you start breaking down the atmosphere, seeing if that's valid or not.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't have an easy way to show the helicity swaths on our computer system. All right, we're going to take a quick break, reset. We'll come back, talk about Saturday's potential, and what about this snow chance early next week? We'll give you both the Euro and the GFS, the two long-range models that go out far enough. We'll have that for you coming up here in just a second.
We'll see you in 30 seconds.
All right, we're back with you here. We're set and ready to go. The SkyTrack camera getting a little bit of a break for now after some of that heavy rain. We'll see more of that move back in. For folks that are just now jumping in, and I see the counts bumping up, welcome into the stream. We've been talking severe weather. It's the reason for the alert day. It's the reason we've got red surrounding us on the screen. We do have that still in place for tonight. We spent the last almost 40 minutes or so talking about what to expect tonight. And that was that we have the marginal risk along and south of the river, the slight risk along and south of the parkways. There is a chance for rotation with these storms because of the shear in the atmosphere, which gives us that isolated tornado threat and some strong winds. So it's something we'll be watching through the night. We want to sort of shift gears now and move into the next two systems that we have lined up. One comes our way this coming weekend. And this is another, we're on the seesaw where temperatures are going into the 60s tomorrow, back down on Friday. They go back up on Saturday, back down on Sunday.
But what if I'm motion sick? I need to take some Dramamine for this one.
And you get motion sick.
Yes, I feel like everybody knows that. But yeah, this is the deal. We're getting ready to go into our next big weather maker here with Saturday storms. Now, a lot of folks are going to ask immediately, are these severe? Are we going to see more severe weather on Saturday? And the answer is we need more time for this one to cook. At this point, there is at least a small chance for some stronger storms out of this one. Some of the machine learning or AI data.
Wait, do we have access to that?
Yes, but we don't use it on the air, thankfully. But some of that's starting to pinpoint at least a little bit of a chance for some of these stronger storms. This is another scenario here where you got a front moving through at night, and these would be potentially after dark storms. So we'll see how that works out. Once we get this system through, and I was talking about this at 7, we got to get system number 1 through here to have a better handle on what system number 2 will do, and system number 3, which will be the snow we get to in a minute. We'll start to have better handles on that because we'll be able to sample the atmosphere behind each system more accurately and then figure out downstream, upstream really, how these systems will react to that. So to be determined on severe weather for Saturday. What we do know, though, is as that cold front moves through, it gets cooler by Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, and one more thing on the front as it moves through. It's still, again, too early to pinpoint the timing, but it looks like it could be another overnight deal. Typically, overnight deals are not as robust because we don't have the instability. So that's going to be another thing we have to watch is the timing of that. But you're right. The cold air certainly filters in behind this, and this makes a colder Super Bowl Sunday. So instead of highs in the 60s like Saturday, we're back in the 40s. A good time to be inside watching the big game.
I'm sorry, Todd Richmond just said, I thought Helicity Swaths was a new meteorologist at WAVE. I'm sorry, that's hysterical.
Name some of the other ones. Dallas Raines.
Yes.
Los Angeles.
That's going to be my YouTube handle.
Danielle Breezy, Nashville.
Yeah, I did.
Who else?
She might be watching,
storm. There was a storm.
Oh, I remember. This was a little bit ago, but yeah, there was a storm. All these kind of like TV weather names. Some are real. Some are real, by the way. Oh, Ken Weathers down in Knoxville.
Okay.
Yeah, that's his real name, and he became a meteorologist.
Maybe I'll change my name to Helicity Swap.
You're right.
It's not a bad idea.
It's my YouTube handle right there.
All right. So we talk about the potential for severe weather Saturday. Question mark. We're watching it. Obviously, we're not confident enough yet to make it an alert day, or we'd already have that tag on it saying, well, you know what? This has a little more credibility. Not yet. I think what may get the alert day next will be what's coming in early next week. Watch what happens. We're looking at the Euro model. This is another system to watch, but not because of severe weather, but because of winter weather and snow. Snow lovers, are you out there? Let me see you. Give me a 1. If you're a snow lover, type 1 right now on the keyboard. I want to see how many snow lovers we have in the room.
Thank you, Brian Good.
Yeah.
That's what he does every morning.
Brian is nowhere to be found. He is long asleep. He's sleeping all week, I think. All right, I'm waiting. I'm going to wait here until we see if we have anybody that is a snow lover chiming in. There we go.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, Timothy.
He's got like 7 ones. Oh, Todd says -1.
funny.
That's kind of funny. I like
Kirsten, Todd, Lindsay.
One when I was in school, I would agree with that. Yes.
-1 from Rose.
Yeah, it's like if you have to
that's fun.
drive in this or you have an appointment, oh, it's just a drag. But if you're at home, it's kind of fun, right? But that's the key. If you have to work, it's no fun.
And Valerie says, not really, but I'd rather have
Snow over
tornadoes. All right, let's go through this data because we do have the potential, again, see how close that is, pretty much hugging the Ohio River and north. But again, when we talk anything in the distance like this, you have to give a little leeway on the spatial distance because that will change some. Can't pin it down days in advance. Otherwise, our jobs would be real easy. So the models just don't have a good handle always on intensity or placement. So that changes through time. But anywhere between Monday and Wednesday, which is why we've put a nice wide window on the impact time, we could have the potential for rain and snow chances. It's something that we're watching closely, which again, we put in that box up there just to kind of make transparent what we're thinking and what is in our heads when we're looking and sort of trying to give you the weather forecast. Bottom line is the snow cover potential does come across our area by early next week. Now, the interesting part is, when we have two long-range models to look at, I just showed you one. That was the European model. Yesterday, it had something a little different. Frankly, it had more snow over it yesterday.
Yeah. And it's funny because the two models that we look at kind of swapped their positions on where the snow is going to be overnight. So now it's the GFS that's gone snow crazy for central and north central Kentucky here. You can see that on your right.
That would be
left,
fun.
Yeah, and then on the left is the Euro, more of a Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Columbus, Indiana sort of deal here. By the way, there are more than two of these global models. The Canadians have one, the South Koreans
Are we going to get in
one,
trouble for throwing model data out?
Oh, gosh.
I think that's hilarious. Here's the deal.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
We can talk about long-range models as long as we put the context around it, right? It's the data that we have, okay? It's okay. We're all going to survive. We're going to be here tomorrow. It's okay.
Weather therapy with Kevin Harned, everyone.
It drives me nuts when people get mad that you push data out that everybody has their hands on. Anybody can look at this. You have it. Anybody can have it. It's not like this is proprietary to Wave. Bottom line is, it's what you do with the data that makes sense. I can't help that. What I can do is say, let us explain to you that we're way early. But I like a little snow. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd much rather have sunshine and temperatures in the 70s and 80s. I'd rather be, at the lake or on the river or at a beach than shoveling snow. But I think if it's going to be wintertime, the one thing I love and have always loved about growing up here is that we have 4 distinct seasons. And I would love to have another decent snow. Now, the one we had in January, what a wallop that was. I liked it. It was fine. The ice made it a little trickier and certainly made it heavy when we're trying
I could have done without the ice, said my back and my snow shovel said. But yeah, I think Kevin's point about getting a potential another snow before the winter is over, I think it's possible. I mean, gosh, you look at the system next week, you look at the pattern down the line into late January, February 16th and 17th, they're kind of showing up now on the European models like, whoa, oh my gosh. March, we haven't even looked that far into the future yet. Somebody has, but it's not been me because we've got so much to do in the next week and a half here that it's hard to look that far in the future. But just know that this may not be the final word, what you see here for Tuesday.
Definitely won't be. We'll be updating this. But here's the interesting part. If you know anything about models and you pay attention to the model run to run to run on all of the models, the one good part is they've been somewhat consistent, right? Now, they may have fluctuated, 50 to 100 miles here or there, but all of them have had at least a measurable snow across our area for the last, 4 days?
It's been at least
maybe
4
longer
days.
than that.
Because I was talking about it over the weekend at home. So at least Sunday, I was like, uh-oh, we're in trouble.
Now, I'll take Jeff. I don't necessarily want to be on the sinking part of the boat, but being out on the houseboat sounds good. Always. I love being on the water. All right. All right, let's jump off my soapbox.
Right.
On the model
we have lots
data.
of colorful comments in the wake of that. I love
Do
that.
we?
Yes.
I'm still digging through the earlier ones. All right. So that's the model data. Now, if Alan Jones is still in the room, he's a big snow fan. I'm sure he's forecasting 10 inches of snow plus, right?
That's his own personal forecast.
That's his personal forecast. Yes. He just loves it.
Sounds like Wave's personal forecast from like 2005.
All right. I'm going to put up the 10-day here, and then we can take your final questions. It's 9:25.
This is one of the most active 10 days you'll probably see for the entire year, just because you've got
that yo-yo on the front end.
Yeah, you've got not only the temperatures, but you also have 3 separate systems that all bear our attention. And then whatever the heck happens Valentine's Day and thereafter, especially the thereafter, is more interesting, as we were talking about, that 16th, 17th range for anything that might be interesting.
Yeah, and we'll see. The thing, that's still many days away. When you're looking at 6 days out, well, you're talking about a lot of things that can change. I mean, this could be Indy that gets walloped, or even to our south again. It could go completely away. Could be a rainmaker instead of snow. It only takes a couple of degrees for that to happen, especially in the model data, right? So, I mean, the models pick it out as snow, but what happens if we're too warm? Well, guess what? That's rain. So it's a problem. All right, but a very busy forecast nonetheless. And Valentine's Day is on there for those that may be taking your significant others out. 45 after a cold start on Valentine's Day. We'll see how that works out. Temperatures are usually a little easier to pinpoint, by the way, in the long term. So when we show the 10-day, and yes, we do the 10-day because we do it on our app. We crank out a 10-day forecast every day on the app. So when we were given a 7-day forecast for so long, we're like, well, why don't we give the 10-day on TV? We might as well. The data's gotten so much better. Remember, they used to give a 2-day, then 3-day, then 5-day. I mean, this all goes back to my time when I started at Wave. We gave a 5-day forecast. Then it went to a 7-day forecast. Why? So it would always include the weekend. But then the data got better, and it's like, yeah, well, okay, we're comfortable giving a 7-day. Well, guess what? The data keeps getting better. You know, I was watching last night Bill Gates on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and he says AI is taking over. And Jimmy asked him, he said, at some point, will we all not have a job? And the answer to that was like, well, maybe not. Like, he's like, I think it's conditioned. He's like, you wouldn't want to go watch a bunch of AI baseball necessarily. So you need people for that. But a lot of jobs, imagine the medical world, how that has to change. Things just keep getting better and better because of the data that goes into
Especially like analyzing
medical. Our job will be the same too.
Analyzing not only weather imagery, like models and satellite data, but like medical imagery, like some of the AI tools that are used to identify tumors and things like that. It's legit amazing. But at some point, we're going to need human-to-human contact here, all right? Like, sometimes you just want to connect with a person for the information. So I don't think that part will completely go away, but I think it is interesting that there's going to be a huge shift in how we do jobs and how we make a living in the next 30 years. Like, whoa, okay. Right. We'll see who retires before and after that, I guess. I'm over here like, oh, how much time?
Always dig a garden, I guess. I don't know.
It's like, what are those lottery numbers again?
Yeah, maybe we need to crank up the lottery pool.
I need to get an AI tool to find out the highest lottery winning odds and start putting it on that.
All right, let's see if we have a few more questions that folks want to ask about either. I saw one in here a while ago. It was like, hey, I just joined. I missed the first part.
I saw Secrets of Bluegrass Meteorologists. I thought that was hysterical.
Yes. Well, thanks for watching Secrets of Bluegrass Chefs. Yes. We appreciate that.
That was good.
And here's Crystal saying, just joined. How's the severe weather looking for tonight? Let me just put that back up. We'll check the radar and then zoom back down to the severe weather chances. I'm going back up in the graphics. Okay, here we go. Sorry, it takes me a second.
We have really tiny displays, guys, that they gave us.
Can't see this thing.
God love all the technology we have in this room, but it's small. All the displays are
more computers here. I feel like we could, do a lot, but
you could launch a human to the moon with the amount of technology we have in here right now. You can do that with your phone too.
I need glasses.
I did it in the 60s, but it's all just small. And I'm wearing. I have 20/20 corrected vision, and I have trouble in here. So
what you have done?
Contact lenses.
Oh,
corrected lenses.
Yeah.
Not like I want LASIK, but that's. I'm a little medical, heebie-jeebies sometimes on that.
Oh, really?
Especially with my eyes. It took me forever to start wearing contacts because I didn't like touching my eyes. So we're getting there. Maybe that'll be my goal. Next
Maybe
year.
that's my problem. I never went and got contacts or glasses. Consequently, I can't see a thing. Actually, I have decent vision. I can't see like those little things.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the question, Crystal. Sorry. We do have more rain moving in. This is not severe. We're still in the 30s. But the forecast for tonight, as we've been pointing out, shows that we'll be adding to the rainfall gauges across the area, where we've picked up over a half an inch. Some areas to the south, even more. The warm front lifts in. That provides us with a little more spin, a little more instability. You can already see that in southern Kentucky. Winter weather alerts are north of us, near Indianapolis. There are no severe weather alerts at this point, but that may change. You can see the Storm Prediction Center has that slight risk of severe weather, and it's pegged right across southern Kentucky. So it includes parts of our viewing area along and south of the parkways. That would be the zone that has the greatest potential overnight tonight. So that's the area that we have to watch. What could you see in that area? Strong winds with the strongest thunderstorms. Isolated tornado threats going to be there because of the shear that's in the atmosphere, both with the warm front moving in and the low-level winds kicking in with the jet. So that's what we'll be watching. We'll be here sort of babysitting it all night.
Yeah, that's why we've got multiple meteorologists. We'll have Tawana in here early tomorrow morning. And she'll likely, have some of these storms to deal with on sunrise. And sunrise, by the way, starts at 4:30 a.m. We've had a few questions about like, hey, are you guys going to be live if there's severe weather overnight? And yes, if there is a tornado warning, we will be live on Wave Television, on Wave Weather Now, which is our 24/7 weather live stream. It's the only local weather live stream in Louisville. We put hundreds of hours of work into this thing since it launched in June of 22 here. And if you're watching us right now and you're not on like Facebook or YouTube or X, you're watching us on Wave Weather Now, which is that live stream. So all you have to do is go to like your Roku, Amazon Fire, or Apple TV, download the Wave Now app, and then go to the Wave Weather Now little slot that you'll see there on that app. You can, of course, see it on the Wave Weather app. Just tap Watch Live, real easy. Just scroll down. And, of course, on wave3.com. So Wave Weather Now, that's the place you need to go. And, of course, traditional television on Wave will always have that coverage there, too.
Rose is saying, how did the rain-catching amount collecting spots get picked? I'm assuming that means how did the rain gauge locations get chosen?
Every one of those in Kentucky, except for the one in Louisville, is a Kentucky Mesonet rain gauge. So the Kentucky Mesonet is a state-financed network of weather observation stations around the Commonwealth run by WKU. And so that data is for Kentucky. And of course, in Louisville, it's an airport. I think Madison is an airport. Some of the sites, just full transparency here in southern Indiana, are interpolated, meaning there's real rainfall observations taking place downstream. And of course, some data is being processed to figure out what that approximate rainfall total is, because we don't have an Indiana Mesonet. Listen, Indianapolis, if you're hearing me, please get an Indiana Mesonet. Fund one. We need one. It's desperately needed because southern Indiana, a lot of rural spots. We need more data from those areas like Crawford, Perry, Du Bois, Orange counties. We need that. Hello, state of Indiana. We need an Indiana Mesonet. I'll step off my soapbox now.
They're like, we're not paying for it. That's always the problem, isn't it?
It's always
Who's going to pay for it?
I know.
Right.
It's a good return on investment. I'll say that.
But we'll see. I think there was a bill being put into Congress. Is it the Tornado Act?
I heard about this.
Read that today.
I think that's correct.
So we'll see. It's quite a large number, but it's to help upgrade the National Weather Service and some of the other entities that help support the weather enterprise to help keep us all safe. So we'll see if that happens.
That's a good return on investment from a public safety standpoint.
We'll see if
we're biased as meteorologists, obviously,
right.
But it's true. It is.
All right. Final question. Joseph saying, will tomorrow be an alert day? No, doesn't look like tomorrow will be. I think the next alert day, I'll pop that up. Todd says he has a bucket and a ruler. Sign him up. No, Todd. No, I know Todd is a dear friend, by the way. Todd, no way.
Well, I keep picking on him.
No way. I took you out of the Storm Spotter book a long time ago, my friend. I kid.
While I was still in grade school. You're welcome.
Yeah, remember those? Remember the Storm Spotters?
Yes, I do.
I remember. What was it, 99, 2000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Woo.
All right. Bad lightning
30 years
in
ago.
Marion County, according to Tammy Washburn. Thank you very much.
Yes.
We appreciate that. All right, listen up. We're going to take not only a break, but we've got to get ready for the 11 o'clock show. So we'll say thanks for watching. We will be back on overnight tonight if there is severe weather or if there's a change in the weather that we need to update. Maybe the threat goes completely away if the warm front stalls out. It doesn't look like we're going to see enough instability in the viewing area and it's going to hug the Tennessee border and it doesn't impact us at all. Maybe we'll just jump back on, have a quick conversation, let everybody say, hey, go to bed. We're going to be A-okay. In the meantime, we're going to look over the latest data coming in, not only for tonight, that'll be the top priority, but we're also going to have to check next week. And let's see what next Tuesday looks like. I think if all holds, we may have to flag Tuesday as an alert day just to give that advance warning of, hey, this is a day we're watching. And then we'll just follow it and see if it changes. If it changes, we'll strip the alert day off. And if it doesn't, then it'll be in place for next week. So we'll watch that closely. All right. In the meantime, hope you have a great night. And thanks for jumping on and having a little weather chat with us tonight.